20 years ago, I wrote that PT, Workers' Party, a major leftist political party in Brazil, and the national left in general were not prepared for democratic power rotation. They wanted to seize power and keep it forever, which is not normal. If this happens, it would be called a dictatorship, not democracy. The left's idea of democracy in Brazil is this: we take power and never leave. Twice, Lula celebrated the fact that all presidential candidates were left-wing, claiming it as a triumph of democracy. So, for them, it is natural to think this way. Today, I see that this mindset extends beyond the Brazilian left. It pervades the entire media. The entire media was shocked and traumatized by the election of a right-wing government. For them, it was unimaginable. How can this be democracy? In the United States, there's a rotation between Republicans and Democrats. In England, it's between Labor and Conservatives. Sometimes one wins, sometimes the other. Isn't that democracy? I never fought to eliminate the left, but to create a power rotation. When the first right-wing person was elected, they were utterly inconsolable, vowing to destroy him and remove him from power. We are the resistance. They use the term resistance because it echoes the French resistance against the Nazi invader. So, does that mean Bolsonaro was not elected by popular vote? Was it a Nazi invasion from abroad? From where? Could it be from the United States? Then it must have been the CIA or the FBI that invaded here. You see, this reveals the mindset of the entire Brazilian media, a mindset not of communists, but of fanatical communists who accept nothing outside the party. This is severe communist fanaticism, folks. Now, were the consequences of this just the destruction of Brazilian democracy? No, folks. Look, in 1990, when Lula, Frei Beto, a Brazilian Dominican friar and political activist, and Fidel Castro founded the Sao Paulo Forum to be the strategic coordination of the communist movement in the continent, the forum quickly grew to include over 100 member organizations. Nearly 200, including political parties and openly criminal organizations like the FARC, Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia, a guerrilla group known for drug trafficking, the Chilean MIR, Revolutionary Left Movement, known for kidnappings, and other similar groups. The partnership between leftist organizations in Brazil and the FARC is an obvious and blatant fact, since the PT presided over the forum meetings alongside the FARC. It was Lula next to Manuel Marulanda, a FARC leader. So, there was clearly mutual benefit. Meanwhile, the FARC was buying weapons from Fernandinho Beiramar, a notorious Brazilian drug trafficker who was bringing them from Lebanon, in exchange for 200 tons of cocaine per year for the Brazilian market. So, a party that associates itself with this, is it not a criminal organization? But was it only the PT that committed this crime? 200 tons of cocaine caused many deaths, folks. Many lives destroyed. It's absolutely inhumane, cruel, the work of murderers and genocidal people. In Colombia, the FARC are despised. They managed to push the FARC into a corner of the territory, and the population doesn't even want to hear about them. At one point, the FARC had about 3% of the electorate's support. 3% was their peak. I visited Colombia several times and felt the people's hatred toward the FARC. Meanwhile, here was the PT petting the FARC's head, providing jobs for FARC members who came here. And what did the media do? On the 15th anniversary of the Sao Paulo Forum, Lula gave a speech stating that for the organization to progress, it was essential that he, Hugo Chavez, former Venezuelan president, the Cuban officials, and the guerrillas from Nicaragua could have discussions without anyone knowing what they were talking about. So, for progress to occur, secrecy was necessary. The entire media provided this secrecy, covering up and denying the existence of the Sao Paulo Forum for 16 years. This was the greatest journalistic fraud in Brazilian history, one of the biggest in world history. It involved concealing entities that were plotting to seize power while associating with criminal organizations responsible for killing Brazilians on a large scale through cocaine. Who did this? The media. You folks. You, Globo staff. Globo is Brazil's largest media conglomerate. You, Folha staff. You all did this. So, you are accomplices in the deaths of thousands, perhaps millions, of Brazilians due to cocaine. Accomplices of drug trafficking. Accomplices of the greatest criminal conspiracy Brazil has ever seen, making the Petroleo and the Mensaleo, two major corruption scandals in Brazil, seem like child's play. Have you ever stopped to think about this? No, because you don't think, you have no conscience, my God. You are all childish, puerile individuals placed in positions of authority, wielding power. The Brazilian people have already sensed this and stopped paying attention to you. The Brazilian people vomit at the media, vomit at Folha de São Paulo, vomit at Globo. No one wants to hear about this crap anymore. I have more readers than you do, more readers than any so-called major media outlet. And they pay attention to me because I don't lie to them. I'm not getting rich by supporting communist parties and drug traffickers. I don't do that, but you do. Not to mention those media outlets that, unable to attract readers, come up with ways to sell their products to the government, which then distributes them to others, forcing propaganda upon them. For example, the magazine Nova Escola, a Brazilian education magazine, by Fundação Victor Savita, a Brazilian educational foundation, which introduced Emília Ferreiro, an Argentine psychologist known for literacy theories, and Vygotsky, a Soviet psychologist known for socio-constructivist theory, to Brazil, along with every wrong educational principle like socio-constructivism, which has dumbed down generations of Brazilians. They made money by selling this to the government, which bought and distributed it to brainwash teachers. They naturally thought it was wonderful. Look at what Nova Escola and Sala de Aula magazine promoted, Vygotsky, who we must apply in education. And the effects on the children? How were the children mass analphabetized? By these people, with media support. Now there's Carta de Educação, a Brazilian education journal, which is the same thing. This Carta guy doesn't know how to get readers, he has no credibility. So, what does he do? He produces a worthless magazine to sell to the government. Since the government is from the PT and wants his support, it buys and distributes it to teachers. In addition to supporting the communist movement, which is traditionally genocidal and murderous, and backing drug traffickers who work alongside communists, journalism also benefits from this misappropriation of funds. When the Beanses, National Bank for Economic and Social Development, a Brazilian state bank, black box was opened in January, there was wailing and gnashing of teeth, even from the media. Many media figures were involved. You are digging your own graves, folks. You are discrediting yourselves to a pitiful level. I wonder, why are they doing this to themselves? Look at my interview in Estadão today. You'll see that I spit on Estadão, on its very pages, just as I did with my former editor at Globo, Luiz Garcia, who dismissed the São Paulo Forum as non-existent or unimportant. On Globo's own pages, I silenced him because he knew nothing and was only serving the Communist Party to which he belonged. Folks, I don't express ideas or opinions to secure or keep a job. I lost all my media jobs, and you know what? It was a great thing for me because it gave me more time to conduct my courses as I wanted, and I'm earning more than I ever did in any media outlet. Things are going well, thank God. But you, the phrase I heard most when I worked in newsrooms was this: journalists are whores. I always found this an insult to prostitutes. In my youth, I owed them wonderful moments. None of them ever robbed me, argued with me, stabbed me while I slept, or did me any harm. I always thought this comparison was terribly unfair because prostitutes provide a real service. And what do? You sell poison, you sell lies. All of you. Think about what you've done over the past 16 years of concealing the Sao Paulo Forum. You only agreed to cover it when the PT itself, in a video introducing its third Congress, admitted that the Sao Paulo Forum was the strategic coordination of the communist movement in the continent, something everyone initially denied. In O Globo, Luiz Garcia wrote, and then Jean Carlos Souza, the PT's international relations director, claimed the Sao Paulo Forum is nothing like that, it's just a debate club. He said, have you ever seen a debate club issue resolutions that must be signed by all members? Then the PT itself admitted, it's not a debate club, it's the strategic coordination of the communist movement on the continent. They only failed to add, as Olavo always said, Olavo was right. Did anyone feel embarrassed by this huge disgrace? No, because they have no shame. Today's journalistic class has no shame. Of course, there must still be honest individuals in newsrooms. To those people, I say, don't accept this anymore. Don't accept orders from corrupt bosses. Work according to your conscience. We may not always know what is right, but we have an obligation to seek it. That's all for now. Today there will be no questions and answers. See you next week, thank you. Next week's class will also be at 9:30 p.m., sorry.